Hey everybody! A few months ago I did a video on a design flaw whereby Apple's machines were sending 52 volts directly to the CPU in the case of humidity, small short circuits, or liquid damage because they put the LCD power pin right next to the data line. LCD backlight is a high voltage line. It's anywhere from 25 to 52 volts, depending on the machine. On these machines, it can go up to 52 volts. So it really doesn't make sense to put that pin directly next to LCD data, especially if the LCD image display data line goes straight to the CPU. But that's what they did in these machines. And in the 15-inch machines, you have it a little bit better. That data line goes to a muxing chip rather than going straight to the CPU, because as you know, on 15-inch models, you have the dedicated GPU mixed with the Intel integrated GPU. So you have a chip that sits between them that deals with muxing the signal between the two when you're switching. Now, on those machines, you can kind of save it. If you've got a 15-inch one, it's easier to save because you're just looking at replacing a small mux chip rather than replacing a $300 to $500 ball grid array, difficult to replace, hard to obtain CPU. And in the video that you can see up here, I had Paul demonstrate how to do this repair so that you could take that board that most repair shops would say is totally unusable, junk, garbage, and make it work again, and therefore, reuse it and also make some money for yourself in the process, fixing something that someone else would have thrown away. Now what I'd like to do is show you the part 2 of that repair. So in that video, we were able to make the board work again, but the screen assembly was too far damaged from that connector being destroyed. Now this is a very difficult to replace screen. It's also very expensive. This is not like the olden days of the MacBook screens where you spend 40 to 60 bucks, you can get a replacement screen. It's held in by 8 screws, you open it up and you go in and you're done. These screens are held in by a very annoying adhesive. These screens crack in very annoying ways. They get little bits of glass dust everywhere, and when it touches the back layers, it's almost impossible to reuse those back layers. You can't buy new back layers to the screen for the backlight diffuser, and it's just a complete and utter nightmare. And that's if you're willing to spend the $170 to $220 to get that to do that risky repair. Or you're stuck replacing the entire display assembly. Replacing the entire display assembly is going to run you anywhere from $400 to $550, depending on the source that you get in the screen from. So my point here is if you can make that old one work again, where other repair shops would not, you are then able to put your profit between the 20 cents of the connector and your time and the $500 that the other place would have charged. Anything in between that is then going to be your profit if you're new in the repair business. I cannot stress this enough in the repair business that when you are new, when you are just starting out, if you want to break into the business and start making some money, the best way to do so is to find the jobs that other places are unable or unwilling to do, where there is a large amount of money to be made in between your cost of parts and time and their cost of parts and time based on their standards. That is how I was able to squeeze into the business, and that can be how you're able to squeeze into the business. So if you're in an area where when this problem happens, people just say, we can fix your board, but we also have to replace your screen, or even worse, we can't fix your board and we have to replace your screen after replacing your board, this is where you will be able to dig in and make some money off of what somebody else is either incapable or unwilling to do. And most places are incapable or unwilling to do this, which means this is an opportunity for you to make some money. So, in that old video, I showed you how it is to make the board work again when you have a scenario where 52 volts went to the mux chip of the CPU. But here I'd like to show you what it is that you can do to make the screen work again and the screen be reusable if you have that situation or scenario, so that you're not stuck replacing a $200 to $500 screen if all it needs is a connector. Now, you're not going to be able to save every single screen doing this, but you're going to be able to save enough of them that it's going to make watching this video worth your time and your while, even though it's really long. So that being said, I'm going to have Paul take over from here, and as always, I really hope you learned something. By the way, separately from this, I showed Dave Jones at EEV Blog this flaw. I'm just kind of curious for what an engineer's take on this was, because these pins are actually supposed to be on opposite sides, but due to the way the layout engineer kind of didn't pay attention to what was going on, they managed to be put right next to each other. I was really kind of curious in how the corporate or management or engineering culture was to allow this type of flaw to occur and what it would be like at a different company. So you may be hearing Dave Jones from EV Blog chime in on this at some point or another.
So I had something interesting that I could contribute to the conversation from my last stream, that everybody was talking about silk screening. So we happened to get a hold of these, I think they're engineering samples of the 1707 boards, and they all have all the silk screening on them. So this is a rare sight. Either you're going to see this from like 2008 and below, or unless you get a hold of these engineering samples where every single chip, every single resistor capacitor is all marked on the board. This almost looks like a PC. But yeah, we'll be harvesting this display connector to put on the display later. The first thing that I have to do... Oh, I also have this thing too. So this is a 1708 board. And this is some kind of engineering sample. It has the reset buttons, and it's populated with the LEDs, the indicator LEDs, for the power rails and stuff. I wish we had one that was a little bit more together, because, you know, of course it's missing the RAM, it's missing the CPU. But I'd love to see it in action, or either that or move this to a board and see if we can make use of some of these test points and stuff. Thought that was interesting when we got these in. So what I have here is the 1707? Is that what this is? Yeah, I think. That I changed the mux on Friday. Friday? Yeah, Friday. And I was wondering where my test port went. So the mux is working on the board. Everything's fine with the board. But we have here the screen connector on his screen is destroyed. So we are going to change this screen connector. Now these, I don't think Lewis doesn't do these. These things are a pain in the ass. So these things are 3 parts. You'll see as I pull the donor one apart. So this is the screen side. What is it? Samsung, LG, something like that. This is the screen cable, the backlight cable that is famously disgustingly bad because it's too short, and they wind up severing themselves right here where they get stressed every time you open it. But we are going to pull this nasty thing off of here, check the pads underneath it, check for resistance on that, and see if this screen is going to be savable. First, let's get rid of some of this hair. Burning hair smells terrible. So now you have to be careful with this because we're in a machine. We're on the screen. The clutch cover is right here. The vents are right here. This is network antennas, Ethernet antennas, wireless LAN. So we're going to use some flux. And we are just going to wreck the shit out of this connector. I just heard something spark really loud up front, and Lewis go, yeah, so say goodbye to another Fang motor. Damn it, I don't want that to break. Stay in one piece, damn you. So that's piece number 1. There's piece number 2. And now it looks kind of like a regular connector. And we could just smash this all up. Always push in the direction of the pads if you're going to do something like this. You don't want to push across because you wind up pulling pads a lot easier that way. So I'm stuck. No, you cannot buy these connectors. Or at least I haven't found them yet. We can get them off of donor boards, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, I have some leaded solder on there, so now I'm going to wick it clean. Why are we so mean to HAKKO? So, the history of HAKKO. HAKKO showed up in chats, and he started having right answers and good things to contribute, and awesome discussions and stuff. And then he shows up here one day, and he has ability. He can fix things, he can work on things, he has smarts, he has brain. But then he just disappears. He just never shows up again. Like, where did HAKKO go? We offered him a job. We want you part-time, full-time, whatever you want to do. Come on in. You know, do some work for us. Learn some stuff too. Make us better. Let us make you better. And he just never showed up. He was a traitor. And now he finally comes around. He's learning how to fix things. He's doing editing for Lewis. He's dealing with customers. He's practically a model employee. It's just what it took to get him to show up. There's far too much tempting to get him to show up. Like, I've had some pretty crappy jobs in my day. And I can't believe seeing the people, all the time I've been here, and seeing the people come through here that fuck this up. That don't want to show up to work on time, that don't want to listen to things that need to be done. Like, this is a great place to work. There's great people working here. None of the jobs that we have here are extremely difficult. Yes, some stuff like this is definitely hard. It's very specialized, but it's not like we're not digging ditches here. You're not going to hurt yourself, except for maybe the stray Nerf dart to the eye. I have a lot of automotive experience. ASE certified in 4 different areas, and I was an automotive mechanic for many years. So this is where we're pulling it from. I'm going to pull it from this test board, this engineering sample board with all of the silk screening letting you know where everything is. Connectors that aren't even on. That connector's not even populated on the actual board. So we're going to pull it from here. So how I do that, I'm going to hang it off the edge of my desk, grab something to weigh it down so it doesn't move. This is where I'm going to use a somewhat generous bit of flux. I'm going to take the tip that's still hot. Ooh, ooh. So now I have no tip on my JBC handpiece, and I'm going to heat it from underneath. A shenanigans supervisor. That would be interesting to have a shenanigans supervisor. You'd have to make sure that everybody has the proper amount of Nerf darts. We can't have, one side of the building having more Nerf darts than the other. That gets unfair. We want it to be fair at least. You have to make sure Hi gets a daily ribbing. I have no idea how we got these engineering sample boards, but we have a couple of them. Just ordering donor boards from China, and that's what we eventually get. So I just heat from underneath and just keep slowly moving in closer and closer. By the time it's about smoking is when it should be melted, and pop it off. That board is going to be very hot. So now, we have to disassemble it. Well, first, I'm going to clean it. Well, actually first, I have a stray capacitor that I took off with it. Let me get that out of here. What are you? Oh, a stray diode came with it too. Interesting. Okay, so a bunch of people ask me, why do I have a T-strainer? This is why you have a T-strainer. I put my tiny little part inside the T-strainer, lock it up, and into the ultrasonic cleaner it goes. Cut my knuckle wide open, opening up a touch bar earlier. And I forgot, like, who remembers that you gotta cut, and I dunked this in the tub of alcohol, and just my paper towel bandage thing just soaked up all kinds of alcohol right into my cut. That sucked. Lewis does not need to steal my T-strainer. We have a bunch of them. I bought a pack of like 5 or something on purpose, so that nobody has to touch mine. Okay. So now we need to disassemble this, because the only way to get this onto most things, I never suggest doing what I did to take it off to put it back on, because that's only reserved for donor boards. because any chip that I heated from underneath there, I probably killed something. So a lot of times, look at your donor board around here anyway. You got to look at your donor board and see if a connector was heated off, because you might not want to trust. I took it off of there. Might not want to trust anything from underneath, but there's nothing underneath here that would have got overheating. There's just a coil, and then all that stuff would be fine. A good engineer, a good layout engineer, a good designer knows when something would be heated from underneath, and they usually put it kind of out on a tab and don't put anything underneath it. Some designers are conscious about that. I've seen it in a couple different appliances where, like Lewis's camera, the Sony Alpha camera, when I did the HDMI port on it, there's nothing anywhere underneath the HDMI port, because they know the only way to get that thing on and off is to heat it from underneath, because it's double rows of pins inside of it. So now I need a good pair of tweezers, and I use a dental pick. Darjeeling? I don't like Darjeeling tea. I like Earl Grey, I like Bergamot oil, and I like, because it has Bergamot oil, I like English tea number 1. I forget who makes it. It's one of the bigger tea houses. Has this English tea number 1 that has some Bergamot oil in it. I like that. So we put this in a safe place till later. Let me take off this one. And there is our reclaimed, ready to solder on connector. Non-chlorinated brake cleaner only for cuts. But I don't like brake cleaner as much as I like Berkebile 2+2 gum cutter. That is the best for washing your hands, washing some blood or oil, grease out of your clothes. Oh, fucking son of a bitch. I took the wrong connector. Oh, that's funny. Did nobody notice that while I was reading chat? Son of a... Okay. Scrap that. Now I have a new connector. Next time I need a charge port connector. Completely forgot that they're two different sizes. So, where are they? Whenever we have broken screens, like physically broken screens, we always cut this board off of it. So any of you guys that are doing screens, it's a good idea to cut these boards off of it, and you have a screen connector and the backlight connectors. These things can be useful. And you have male and female backlight connectors. So you have like a little bit of everything that you need on these little boards. So it's always good, throw away the rest of the screen that's broken. You'll throw away the glass, but keep this little board around. So now let's reclaim this one off of this board. That was dumb. I need the device of much gravity. Lewis stole the device of much gravity. I must go yell at Lewis. I have the device of excess gravitational force. Also known as a HAKKO Omnivice, model number C1390C. Much gravity. Or much density, whatever you subscribe to. If you subscribe to density, you should get off this channel. So Lewis was actively using this. I will go give him back the device of excess gravitational force. I see the appeal of having a wireless microphone. Yeah, those little screen boards heat up a lot quicker. And my Earl Grey screen connector is ready. Now let's do this again. Ah, man. One of the pins dropped out. Ugh. I have flux on this. Stop sticking to everything. There we go. Put that in a safe spot. Stop turning. Now that we have the right connector, so now putting flux on is just going to move it anyway. It sucks because it was aligned perfectly. And we try to tack one or two pins. Doesn't matter what pins. Doesn't matter if they're bridge now or anything. Just something to tack it into place. That looks about right. I moved it. It's really hard to solder just the pins and not melt the connector while you're doing this. You don't want to melt the substrate as much as you can. The large pins I might have to come back with the large soldering iron to get. I'll try them with the micro pencil, but I don't think it'll get them. Thermaltronics iron. Was that the one that had something that looked like a HAKKO tip, but a HAKKO handpiece, but it was bigger? It was like the bigger HAKKO handpiece that we use, and it was just a little black box that powers the handpieces. Because if it was that one was absolute trash. The tips were knockoff tips. Half of them didn't even work. That actually did melt some solder there. My poor little micro pencil tip has been alive for so long that the very tip of it, that very pointy tip, just doesn't melt solder anymore. Lost all its coating. Been looking in to see if I could figure out how to replate a tip. But the funny thing is, I'm the only person in here that would ever keep a tip long enough where I could replate it. Anel and Camille have been going through micro pencil tips like you wouldn't believe. I think Anel's going through them because he doesn't have a sleep station. Or no, Camille's going through them because he doesn't have a sleep station. I don't know what Anel's doing with his micro soldering tips that's wasting them. I don't know if he's using them to pick his teeth or something. I have no idea. So now I'm going to turn the entire thing around to try to get into that. I briefly looked into what it's actually plated with. I think it's plated with, what is it? It's an iron, a copper tip plated with iron, then plated with copper again, or something like that. I forget. I need to look into it again. It didn't sound hard, whatever it was. Iron tip just plated with copper and then tinned with solder. If it's that's pretty easy to do. You could copper plate something pretty easily. Just stuff from Home Depot. Yeah, whatever that's connected to is big. It won't let me get solder on it, so I'll have to use a big tip. That worked. Sure, I can't get this one. Come on, I got all the others. Ah, that worked. Cool. They do not have, or I don't know of any expos for soldering SMD equipment or anything like that. So Lewis, a while ago, came back from LTX. He was invited to go out to LTX. And when he came back, he was really excited to try to get something like that here for right to repair SMD components, SMD manufacturers, repair station manufacturers, try to get HAKKO, JBC, Quick, try to get them all represented in some kind of conference, some kind of expo, something to talk about all of this stuff. Let them shill their stuff out in front of people, have question and answers and all that stuff. But New York City is not the place to do that. Even the smallest, crappiest meeting space in New York City is ridiculous amounts of money.
You said you were going to take me to the Javits Center for my birthday. You were going to...
Lewis wants us to rent out the Javis Center. The Jacob Javis Center. Okay, we need some kind of venture capitalist or something to do that. If any of you have been to the International Auto Show in New York, or been to the Jacob Javis Center, the place is massive. Unbelievably massive. I could just imagine what it costs to rent out that place. There's some towns that can fit inside the Jacob Javis Center. I don't know. It's a possibility that maybe we could do that in like Jersey somewhere, Jersey City or Edgewater, or maybe even somewhere by me. But there's no way we're going to be able to get a space in New York unless we get some kind of like real sponsors for it or something. And I don't think it's like HAKKO doesn't like us. Like yeah, we shill the hell out of HAKKO, and you know it is the best iron for the job. Mostly because of the sleep and the way the tips are made and everything. HAKKO is just the workhorse for this job. Back in the day, it used to be Weller, but Weller is just they've had no innovation. They've had nothing good. But HAKKO doesn't like us ever since we reviewed the what is it, the 888 or no, what was that hot air station with the terrible interface? FR810. Like yeah, it's a good powerful hot air station. It's got power to it, but try changing the settings on it.
It's less powerful than the Quick, and it costs $850.
Yeah, the cost is ridiculous. It is less powerful than the Quick by the numbers. Really.
The chip is coming off in like 30 to 40 seconds more.
You know, Quick did something awesome with their station. I really like the JVC that I have on my desk here, but the Quick is an amazing station for that price. That's just spectacular. So that looks good. Nothing bridged.
How was keyboard?
I didn't test it. It needs to be UC'd. That connector's all gummed up. I'm not gonna stick a keyboard wire in that. No, but I didn't mute or anything. I don't have a mute, so I don't know if it went across or not.
Wait, you don't have a mute.
Maybe Apple will sponsor. The repair in front of the Apple Store sounds like an idea, but even better than that, I have a large format printer. I want to print up a sandwich board, one of those wearable signs. For next time Kevin drops the ball really bad, we're gonna have him go in front of the Apple Store with a sign that says, "Don't let them lie to you. We can fix your stuff. Your data's not gone." And just have him there for 8 hours. Like, fine, you want to be useless on Freshdesk, then you'll go be useful standing there for 8 hours.
I think that's something we should implement starting tomorrow.
So now I got to put the surround back on. Kevin is not here. Kevin was here yesterday. I thought Mikey was supposed to be here today. I don't know. I'm losing track of the schedule. I'm supposed to be a manager in this place, and I'm losing track of the schedule. People are showing up when I don't think they're supposed to show up. They aren't here when I think they're going to be here. I thought Anel was here today. Yeah, Nell's out getting his hands tore up by rope. Okay, that completes our screen connector. Let's clean it up real good and... Oh, I forgot to... I could have just wasted all this time. I forgot to check the resistance on the pins that were burnt up. But the board was not burnt up. It was definitely only the connector. When I cleaned up the board was perfect. So let's see. Gotta look at it the other way. And it was those two, top right corner. Multimeter in ohms mode. I don't have multimeter display because I'm all the way in the back of the store on my desk. So let's see here. That to this. 15, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23 million ohms, 30 million ohms. Yep, that is a good reading. Unlike when I read it the other day, it was, what was it? 200 ohms? Okay, board. These boards are just fighting with me today. These machines. I got cut yet again. Either that or I had a headache earlier. I took a bunch of aspirin. Made my blood too thin, so now I'm bleeding like a stuck pig for everything. Okay. Screen cable. Attached to screen. One charge port. That's all we need. I don't care about touch bar. I don't care about speakers. I don't care about battery. I don't care. Well, let's connect fans. So we can see fan spin. Take my USB-C charger. 5 volts. 20 volts. On and off. On again. 1.5 amps. 1 amp. Fan is spinning. And the Apple is thinking. The Apple logo. Awesome. Let's get test OS so we could actually boot into an OS. Connect trackpad so keyboard works. Let's just connect everything. Touch bar. Speaker. Who cares about microphone? Speaker. Power button. Or that's fingerprint reader. That's power button. And let me go grab a test OS with a USB-C. Here's a test OS with a USB-C plug. Plug it in there. Plug this in here. Hold down the Option key. What? Is this thing broken? What? So the front of the store, they go through these cables like crazy. It's either this cable is broken or this has no USB communication. I'm putting my money on this cable is broken. They break these things like crazy. Let me find a different cable. Okay, that's not a good sign that I got two of these USB-C cables and neither one of them are working. Let me see if I can find the adapter to go to regular USB and use my test OS. Okay, so the guys up front have broken all of their USB-C to SATA adapters. And I found this up front too. This is actually Orhan's and it belongs in the middle room. So they probably know that their two things are broken and they were on their way to breaking this. I have not done a drunken repair video here. My preferred booze, Di Serono. Either that or we wound up with a thing of Tito's, was it handmade vodka? That stuff was amazing. What is this lost password shit? Oh, this won't let me start up into Sierra. Yeah. I don't have Mojave on this, so yeah, well, it works. Just software issues, blah blah blah, whatever. Well, that's changing a, well, I guess this will be edited all together for one video. So that's changing the mux on a 1707 and changing the screen cable, well, screen cable, I guess I showed you the screen cable, and the screen connector. So there you go. We saved a screen at least. These screens are expensive. So just putting the connector on, we saved the screen. I'm glad to see it didn't have any backlight issues, any water spots in it. So this customer should be happy. I hope. Unless they're already raging about how long it took. Lewis stopped drinking. Lewis doesn't drink anymore. He actually liked the Di Serono when I brought it in here. I had a big bottle of Di Serono here. It disappeared on me. So, Di Serono donation, awesome. Thank you very much, JP. I will get that from Lewis, and I will definitely buy the biggest bottle of Di Serono the store has. I already got the shot glasses. I always have shot glasses here. Boom. Shot glasses on the MacBook. And Lewis is blowing his horn. He installed a little car horn on his bike. He's going to scare the shit out of people. I know he's going to abuse the hell out of that. That's going to be funny as hell.
This video is brought to you by our sponsors at store.rossmangroup.com. Thank you for supporting our sponsors that help keep us in business. On store.rossmangroup.com, you can find chips, supplies, ultrasonics, flux, soldering stations, and more. With 4.9 stars on Shopper approved, same-day shipping from New York City, and free continental shipping over $30, you can't lose. We even offer free support, unless you're a Please Bro, live chat, and are adding new products every day. If you buy today, we'll throw in a special offer that your order will actually go through properly. What are you waiting for? Go to store.rossmangroup.com to get yourself some authentic Amtech flux. Don't delay. Buy today.